Module 1. The Sociological Perspective. Diving into sociology is like getting a new pair of glasses that helps you see the world in a way you've never seen it before. This field isn't just about looking at people and their behaviors. It's about understanding the bigger picture that surrounds those behaviors. Think of it as the sociological imagination. This concept allows us to step back and see the link between our individual experiences and the wider system. Now, imagine you're at a concert. You're probably not thinking about why you're clapping after a song or why you're cheering along with everyone else. But here's where sociology gets interesting. It tells us that our actions are influenced by the groups we're part of. Just like fish in a school move together, we humans are influenced by our social groups, often without even realizing it. Take social location, for instance. It's like standing at a crossroads where various paths like your job, your income level, your education, and aspects like your gender, age, and ethnicity intersect. These factors can heavily dictate the direction you'll take and the experiences you'll have. The story of sociology itself is pretty dramatic. It started to take shape during the Industrial Revolution, which was a period full of changes and social shifts. People were moving to cities, industries were booming, and old ways of life were disappearing. Sociologists wanted to make sense of all this chaos and turned to science rather than just armchair speculation. That's when Auguste Comte stepped onto the scene, wondering what glues society together. He's the guy who came up with the name sociology and pushed for a way to study society scientifically. Herbert Spencer brought in the idea of social Darwinism, which is kind of like survival of the fittest, but for society. Karl Marx, on the other hand, was all about the class struggle. He saw society as a battleground between the rich guys running the show, the bourgeoisie, and the workers, the proletariat, who were getting the short end of the stick. Then there's Emile Durkheim, who was curious about what keeps society from falling apart, while Max Weber analyzed how certain religious beliefs could lead to capitalist behavior. Back in those days, sociology had its blind spots. It wasn't great with issues of sexism and racism. Brilliant minds like Webb Du Bois, who dug into the impact of race, and Jane Addams, a social reformer and sociologist, often didn't get the recognition they deserved. Talking about the big theories in sociology, we've got three heavy hitters: symbolic interactionism, functional analysis, and conflict theory. Symbolic interactionism is all about the small stuff, like the way a teacher's raised eyebrow can silence a noisy classroom. It's about understanding how we use symbols and interactions to give meaning. Functional analysis is like looking at society as a complex machine where everything has a purpose, a function that helps keep the machine running smoothly. And then there's conflict theory, which is about recognizing that society has winners and losers, and that there are struggles for power and resources. We can also look at society from two different altitudes: the bird's eye view, macrosociology, and the worm's eye view, microsociology. Macro is about the big patterns and structures that shape society, while micro zooms into the nitty-gritty of everyday life and interaction. So, in a nutshell, sociology helps us understand why we do what we do, how society affects us, and how we, in turn, affect society. It's a fascinating world of study that can change not just how you see the world, but also how you live in it. Culture. Culture, in its broadest sense, is the complex whole of knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by humans as members of society. It encompasses the ideas, customs, and social behaviors of a particular people or society. It is both the lens through which we view the world and the blueprint for how we behave within it. Culture is often taken for granted. It is the unseen current that shapes our worldviews and provides us with unspoken orientations towards life's many aspects. When Harry, upon returning from Vietnam, described the Vietnamese people as primitive based on his observations of their eating habits, transportation, and communication style, he was exhibiting ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is the act of judging another culture solely by the values and standards of one's own culture, often accompanied by a belief in the superiority of one's own culture. Harry's statement reflects a lack of cultural relativism, which is the principle of understanding other cultures on their own terms, rather than judging or evaluating according to one's own culture. Practicing cultural relativism involves seeing the practices and customs of other cultures in context. It is an approach to understanding the ways in which societies are different and the reasons behind these differences. It requires an open mind and the suspension of one's own cultural biases. By applying cultural relativism, we can begin to understand that behaviors and practices that seem unusual or different to us are often deeply rooted in another society's values and norms. Symbolic culture is a component of culture that consists of the symbols that signify meanings. These symbols are universally shared within a culture and maintain their meaning through social conventions. Language is the primary way in which symbolic culture is conveyed and preserved. It is through language that cultures express their beliefs, values, and norms. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, also known as linguistic relativity, posits that the structure of a language affects its speaker's worldview or cognition. In essence, the way we perceive the world is heavily influenced by the language we use. For instance, the richness of vocabulary related to a particular subject in a language might indicate the importance of that subject to the culture. Values, norms, and sanctions are the cornerstones of cultural practices. Values are culturally defined standards that people use to decide what is desirable, good, and beautiful, and that serve as broad guidelines for social living. Norms are rules and expectations by which a society guides the behavior of its members. Sanctions are the means of enforcing norms, which can be positive for conformity or negative for nonconformity. Within the sphere of norms, there are folkways and mores. Folkways are norms for routine or casual interaction. They indicate whether to shake hands or kiss on the cheek when greeting. Mores are norms that are widely observed and have great moral significance. They are often seen as taboos, such as prohibitions against murder or incest in most societies. In U.S. society, there are core values that have been identified by sociologists. One such value is individualism, the belief that individuals are responsible for their own successes or failures. The idea that someone can rise from humble beginnings to achieve great success, even becoming president, is emblematic of this value. It is a value that champions personal rights and independence, and it is woven into the fabric of American culture. Emerging values are those that come to the fore as societies evolve. In the modern world, these might include sustainability, digital connectivity, and global citizenship. These values are reflective of changing attitudes and priorities as the world becomes more interconnected. Values and culture are intertwined. The values of a society are reflected in its culture, influencing everything from the political system to the arts, and from business practices to social etiquette. They shape the identities of individuals within that culture and provide a sense of belonging. Finally, technology has created what some refer to as a global village, where cultures and societies are brought closer together through digital communication. This interconnectedness fosters both the sharing of cultural elements, cultural diffusion, and the unique challenge of preserving cultural identity amidst global influences. Technology's role in culture is thus both as a tool for spreading ideas and as a force that shapes how those ideas are received and understood across the globe. The ability to understand and appreciate the nuances of culture is essential in our increasingly globalized world. It allows us to navigate the complexities of human societies with empathy and insight. Socialization. Socialization is the intricate process by which individuals internalize the values, beliefs, and norms of their society and learn to function as members of that society. This process begins at birth and continues throughout life, profoundly shaping our behaviors, beliefs, and identities. At the core of socialization is the concept that society makes us human. Our interactions with family, friends, and the broader community instill in us the social skills and cultural norms necessary for survival and integration. Without these interactions, our development, both social and cognitive, is severely impaired, underscoring the importance of society in our humanization. The self and mind are not entities we are born with fully formed, but are the result of social interaction. George Herbert Mead's theory emphasizes that the self emerges from the social process of interacting with others and taking on various roles. This perspective illustrates that our sense of self and consciousness are cultivated, not innate. Jean Piaget's study on the development of reasoning further supports the role of socialization in human development. His theory explains how children progress through stages of cognitive development, each characterized by a different way of thinking and understanding the world. This progression is influenced by social interactions and experiences, which provide the context in which children construct knowledge. Learning about personality, morality, and emotions is also a social process. The personality we develop, our sense of right and wrong, and the way we experience and express emotions are heavily influenced by the cultural context in which we are raised. These traits are not just passed down through genetics, but are learned through the complex dance of social relations. Sigmund Freud's theory on the development of personality suggests that early life experiences, particularly those involving family, are pivotal in shaping the personality. While Freud's focus was on the individual psyche, he acknowledged that the family, as a social unit, plays a significant role in personality development. Socialization into emotions teaches us what feelings are appropriate in given circumstances and how they should be expressed. Different societies have different emotional rules, and individuals learn from a young age how to navigate these rules. Our emotional responses are therefore not just individual reactions but socially influenced processes. Socialization continues as we internalize societal values and norms, making them a part of our individual psyche. This process reflects the constant interplay between the individual and society, with the latter living within us and guiding our decisions and actions. Gender socialization is particularly noteworthy, as it starts early in life. Society conveys messages about the expected behaviors, interests, and roles of males and females, influencing everything from the toys children play with to the careers they pursue as adults. The agents of socialization, including the family, work, the neighborhood, religion, daycare, schools, peer groups, and the workplace, each contribute to shaping our beliefs, values, and behaviors. Each agent imparts distinct lessons and expectations that mold our identities and perceptions. Socialization is a lifelong journey, with different stages presenting unique challenges and learning opportunities. From childhood through adolescence, transitional adulthood, the middle years, and into the older years, the process of socializing adapts to our changing roles and circumstances. Although socialization profoundly influences us, we are not merely prisoners of it. We have the capacity to challenge and change the norms and values we have internalized, reflecting our agency and ability to influence society. In the realm of socialization, certain characteristics, such as vocational choice, are less about innate predispositions and more about the social environment. These choices are often steered by exposure to different roles, economic opportunities, and cultural values rather than by hereditary traits. Thus, while some aspects of our identity may be influenced by our genetic makeup, vocational choice stands out as primarily a product of nurture over nature.